请过了吗？这 Hello. Okay, open a prayer book. Is it ready, right? No, okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. Now we just in the prayer book, open a prayer book.
1 second. 中文的朋友请进入中文房间啊。因为每个语言进自己的不同的房间。然后please everyone can open your video so later Rinpoche can see everyone. Thank you. 中文的请大家可以打开摄像头啊，等会Rinpoche可以见到大家。好，谢谢。
Sim Jin Dan Je Deva Dan De Dong A Dan De Yur De La Na Me Ba Yan Da Ba Do Ba San Rum Bo Je Do Ba Do De Je De Sang Ma Je Je Ba Tung A Ye San Ge Ba Lai Go Ma Ye Ba De Lung A Ye San Ge Ba Lai Go De De Re Ne Zon De Nye Ma Sang Da San Je Ba Tung A Ye San Ge Ba Lai Go San Je Nian Bo Je Je Ba San Je Nam La Jia San Je Je Da San Qiao San Ba Ye Zuo Lai De Ge Jia San Je Je De Ngen Je De Ge Je San Je Duan Ne Je Ba Da San Jiao San Ba La Ba La da re yin ne ba da yin ro la pen dan da san jo san na ji ji yin yin da na la ba la ran ba yin da la ba ji san ji ji dan sa ji jo nan la san jo bar da da na ja san ji da ge je sa je be sa nan ji do la ben sa ra san ji da ba yo ma nan ka da nya be san ji dan de wa dan de ja dan de ba de Dong a dan dong a je je dan da wa je je dong a me be de wa dan an da wa je je ni ren ja dan je dan de dan ya la ne ba je je Question number 9. Ho namo nase nandake lama la nase yegen sa joba kansa yanda da sorwanda kawa tongto sa chenje lo je yibye nava tsoge jin nasan jine jarve do chenbe ye nga dan de sebe danye ka den jin rowa jomze rambo je da simye je ngane sorwanda chenye je nganda senje lo sende ne jeme nandande donde jega doba senje lo Okay, now let's Chenrezig sadhana. Okay, minute trying. Go ahead. Namo Engara Dene Kata Dava Jije Nazo Deva Jinje Kenkansu Chuga Aba Nela Sovanda Donye Dava Doba Senjelo Tuje Tenso Treba Jere 布达拉耶念觉的，亚拉塞多耶见拉所完的，三段境界永瓦三界罗，莫来那巴的大白这边见，巴的白马为界现看色，我的见人波切拉所完的。 Tara Sambara Sanjala Yena Bardaben Karjane Bunson Debe Bogdan Majen Soja Shabla Sorwanda Dedo Sinjelo Kando Bunson Deba Nejan De Jin Linge Venus Rena Lingde Shabla Soravanda Yamdo Dara Samba Sanjalo Ye Jambo Sanjala Ben Ola Lendo Denda Podana Gaga Jizan Gara Lodela so one the so senja lam the so ye gan de ba bon kan ne to ni jin je do do bo ran de ten jian za ju lam ma la so wan de ni da de en bo ra senja lo lo da nam ge jian je de ne so Teje dorje ganda samela anje sangwan de bala zowan de goban dara semba senje lo de dara de ben jone wan ye yong zo le je jian ka de san de ye de la zo wan de 上人间这把人间路，要么那个不然呢？开来南园这边健康的，那说看着那拉说完的，那完的那玩人间路，开来这人那边感觉呢？ le do me de ba po dan de a so dan je na la so wan de sa na ba che ye wa sen je lo mo la len do da ba je de be ke ai ye de ne je be je ba yo che do chen je na la so wan de Yarsa Semba Senjelo Oje Jamne Zechen Chenanje Dakso Sorwan Debe Banala Oje Denso Dende Dende Jan Senla Chagyan Babaran Zedasan Yama Ngamde Dembe Marikande Semje Nyamo Neje Narvala Nende Cheje Toje Özaraje Alo Nabe Nesan Denda So Sende Loda Rinbe Rechuda 教学民众大德曼达瓦，永定南多大瓦雅摩耶，功德百万圣杰罗，大所念摩圣杰耶热那拉，三公切杰都杰二十杰，大尼摩马来三那迦。一切难瓦解巴圣杰罗，做完的做感觉人间呐，研究大家三圈这巴拉，切单这巴他的三巴达，世界三界都巴圣杰罗。中文。
I supplicate the sacred Dharma of the Buddha Samaja. Place the staircase of the sky in Lodra. Bless me to perfect the accomplishments. I supplicate the groups of peaceful and radical deities of Guyu Samaja. In the body mandala, complete with the four empowerments, the supreme place where accomplishments gather like clouds. Bless me to accomplish the three kayas spontaneously. I supplicate the assembly of Mother Dakinis in the mandala that accomplishes the four activities, within the illusion-like palace of bliss and emptiness. Bless me to master appearances. I supplicate the oath-bound protectors of the teachings in the palace of unhindered activities, where the teachings of fierce, powerful activities abide. Pacify the outer and inner obstacles. Vajra siblings and Dharma practitioners, I supplicate you, supreme beings whose practices benefit both oneself and others, in the Buddha realm of pure aspiration and fortunate karma. Bless me to seize the stronghold of accomplishments. All of you compassionate and greatly loving sources of refuge, I and other disciples supplicate you. Please gather cloud banks of compassion right now and cause blessings to fall on us like rain. At this time when the five degenerations are rampant, the lowest point of the teachings, for sentient beings tormented by afflictions and karma, with great love, please develop abundant compassion and lead myself and others to the state of liberation. Having stayed in isolated hermitage after giving up concerns for this life, bless me to never lose disenchantment and renunciation, and so that my qualities, experiences, and realizations will increase further and further, like the waxing moon. For myself and others, afflicted ones, objects of compassion. You, loving guardians, with light rays of compassion, please clear away our karma, mental afflictions and ignorance, and grant your blessings to increase the light of our wisdom. We supplicate you, kind masters of the Kagyu lineage, bless us to gain perfection of lifespan and accomplishments, so that we followers can accomplish awakening and attain Buddhahood in one lifetime.
Read this one. Not to get.
Now we will read together the top of page 11.
No time. You have time.
Visualize that on your crown is a lotus, a sun disk and a moon disk, upon which are the assembly of deities of the three roots and all the jewels, the sources of refuge. All beings with your parents as the foremost recite the following with respectful body, speech, and mind.
Right now, it's in what time? 9:20. Oh, Namo Lama Kunjo Yedanda Yava Jansu Sojela Dada Ndoa Sanjena Kozan Gebe Jasan
Namo, in the gurus, jewels, Yidam deities, and the assembly of an ocean of victorious Buddhas, I and all sentient beings respectfully take refuge with body, speech, and mind. Namo, in the gurus, jewels, and Yidam deities, and the assembly of an ocean of victorious Buddhas, I and all sentient beings respectfully take refuge with body, speech, and mind.
Oh, Rare Lala Sandar Mangara Zara Jababa Evya Lowan Toloika Desanyanya Jayara Korwa Done Dobarka Kada Sandha Jimbayo Kunjara Dobarmo
I pay homage to the deity, which is self-awareness. I make offerings of unceasing self-clarity. I openly confess transgressions of the four extremes. I rejoice equally in the virtues of the three times. I beseech the Buddhas to empty samsara from its depths and to remain in the naked and unobstructed primordial purity. I dedicate all merit to the realization of self-awareness. May I perfectly attain the three kayas. I pay homage to the deity, which is self-awareness. I make offerings of unceasing clarity. I openly confess transgressions of the four extremes. I rejoice equally in the virtues of the three times. I beseech the Buddhas to empty samsara from its depths and to remain in the naked and unobstructed primordial purity. I dedicate all merit to the realization of self-awareness. May I perfectly attain the three kayas. Oh, in order to liberate all beings, to empty samsara from its depths into Avalokiteshvara's mandala, I generate bodhicitta from within the four immeasurables. Oh, in order to liberate all beings, to empty samsara from its depths into Avalokiteshvara's mandala, I generate bodhicitta from within the four immeasurables.
Okay, now we have mandala offering to Rinpoche. It's a yellow book,
Page 6.
page number 7. Read English. Mandala, this one.
Page 7 in the yellow prayer book. An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms. If I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. my body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping. Completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and attributes of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial. The supreme mandala is the natural state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Om Guru Devanda Rinamendra Labade Daso Namo Nase Namdage Lama La Nase Yegen Sanjubamba Kamsa Yandra Dasovanda Bova Tanda Jayegen Lava Toga Jen Nasa Jene Jagado Kimbe Yegen Adande Seve Danye Gadenje Goa Jumje Ramboje Dasemye Jengane Sorwande Chenye Jengamde Senjelo Sendene Jime Namdane Chuga Doba Senjelo Senje Namje Sambadan Loye Sebra Jedarwa Chejan Tema Tegvaye Chujen Korlo Kordoso Hola So Rinpoche Tene Shobata Delay. Okay. Everybody can see Rinpoche, yeah?
Yeah, everybody please open your video, then Rinpoche can see you all. 中文的大家可以打开摄像头，这样Rinpoche可以看到大家啊。谢谢大家。
오 자자칼에 저걸 참아는 다시 데렉쇼에 산지가 보는 삼제가 오마 산축선도 오마 감성 천지 탐제라더니 삼제가 초반부 오 다시 딜레
We no heard Rinpoche's voice.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Ina.
Can you hear me, Abu Lama? Can you hear me? I don't think so.
GBA, you can unmute now.
Can you hear me now, Abu Lama?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. So Rinpoche said, I'm Dashi Deleg, everyone, on a live stream. I'm offering you this milk tea from the Buddha's begging bowl that contains the milk of loving kindness, the milk of bodhicitta. I'm offering that to all sentient beings in the three realms. Omahong Dashi Deleg.
네. 그래는 다다다 지네도 그렇지. 네. 고토방에 잠비지나 되니 지네도 집아들더니 다다 추탐제를 놓아 가는 데는 서소탈 낭상신 사와상하 섬 예고요래. 되니 서소탈되나 되니 롱근남이 송화리 서소탈되는 서철 리당라데 당이 자체인지 나골 행당자데 진지 종제 주지 상골 맥다라데 통화다에 주서 서소탈은 낭상신 상상하다듯은 이 사드발량 때도 탑 masam cha yongo yore tenisata satar de ne doloktar de ne da mawa ji de ki ba de sa dong ka ba dong de sang ji dong ni dong sa dong ko lo de ja wo dong song ni zang ba de me ro dong si me re ce je ba la de ni me ji bu na ro re ro so so la de ni de ro la de ji ja wo yore de me ye je ro yore 자오지를 드리더니 상속세부 자오를 말더니 지피 코로나 드리더니 레드레지 제사제들이 포치제 찌는 찌리서 몽행제 찌는 집지로 마성 이 도나들 사탑체 전도들이 이네서 집지로 마는 도요래 사달들이 야비이 집지로 마 부모래 이네도 포래 파래 뭐 제들 잡아거지 yap죠 난 따르는 데니 세이츠콜라 데니 사와나 오마니 요래 상하가 되는 상하가 되더니 생황나 데니 요아저는 토모니지 사와야 라똥마연지 데니 디사 똥든 데리고나 데니 가리 다때 탑적을 되는 데니 다달롱나 소마냐미 제나 디와야 라똥마연데 또 대똥 오토 디사 똥 오토 in the Dharma party, in the Dharma party, the Dorji Changasum, the Loksum, the Kakarasum, desire to tap, say, Koji, Chalok, the tap out of what is about, Rasum Jungle already.
We're starting the Chenrezig retreat all over the world. And so, what is Chenrezig? So first of all the Dharma is divided into 3 levels: the outer, inner, and secret. The outer, pratimoksha, the inner bodhisattva vehicle, and the secret mantra, the vajrayana vehicle. According to the scriptures, it is said that so on the outer level, there is the body, the outer, which is the pratimoksha, is just like the body of a person, like the head. Then the inner is the heart. The teachings of the Dharma are like the heart, and then the secret are like the eyes. I'm seeing all phenomena. So the outer is the pratimoksha, the inner is the bodhisattvayana, and the secret is the vajrayana. And so similarly, as sadhana is also divided into these 3 aspects of outer, inner, and secret. From the outer perspective, the outer is also according to the sutra tradition. It says that the noble Chenrezig, with 1,000 eyes and 1,000 arms, as it is said in our prayer, his 1,000 eyes are 1,000 Chakravartin kings. 1,000 arms are 1,000 Chakravartin kings. So the Buddha appears, or Chenrezig appears, like a king, like a Chakravartin king to benefit beings. For example, he appears in this world of the humans to benefit beings here, but not only here, anywhere in the 6 realms of samsara. For example, there's also this king that appears in the animal realms, or there is this king that appears in the human realm. And so the king here is the king of bodhicitta, or altruism, the one who guides on the path of karma, cause and effect. Or we can say that all those with compassion that are male are Chenrezig, and all female compassionate ones are Tara. So in brief, all the deities really are included within Chenrezig and Tara. And externally, often we see this depiction of Yap and Yum in union. So we have male and female. We have Tara and Chenrezig. We say that Tara is the female, the mother, and Chenrezig is the father. But on the inner level, what that refers to is the mind only. So within the mind, we have this quality of clarity and emptiness. And in the Vajrayana, This is shown in the form, or depicted in the form of the male and the female in union. The clarity aspect is represented by the male, the yab, and the emptiness aspect by the female, the yum. And so to unite them, the skillful means are practices such as the channels, winds, and drops, where bliss is the yab and emptiness is the yum, the union of bliss and emptiness. First, we are introduced to bliss and emptiness, and then we are introduced to clarity and emptiness. And then finally, we realize that these qualities are inherent within us without meeting and parting. And this unchanging nature is the nature of the Buddha Vajradhara. And so also now in the sadhana, when we visualize the deity, the appearance of the deity with the implements and the color and so forth, the attire of the deity, all arises from this natural quality. Kolo tangbo de karere, kempola. Kolo tangbo, kolo somdoa, kolo tangbo de karere.
kum yung dumni 당보지 까트를 이제 듣고서 까와짱짱진 난 코로나에 최면 대지가 까와지 그래 이 추념이 제고 되는 소탈건데 점지장 앞에 딱 섬성을 이렇게 까만 못 제고 요래 이 까트를 이제 듣고서 까트를 이제 듣고서 그래 난 금종림에서 뭐 대답이 셈을 통도 능게 또 금종을 해야 되는지 능이 시발사 뭐 벌써 송지 때려서지 난 금종림에 봐도 근데 정진은 나디는 야탈네 들이들이 다들이 사생을 하고 다 하면들 금종림에 봐서 들이 나디는 탈없나 들이 싸마 완전 탑재 봐서 또 코데지가 셈이 하고 되고요 그 셈처럼 싸마지 저 똑바로 앞에 있었금 석가트로 이제 봐서 저 깎고를 놓아서 잡이 오래 이렇게 쳐디 땅도 마다 쳐디 자와들 쳐도 가서 쳐디 잡도록 몰랐어 쳐디 담마상마상 장례해 돼 쳐디 담마상마상 때문에 또 남금 좀 리버트 봤다 쳐디야 저 초랑 땅도 지지 하고서는 저 코랑 얘네 싸만 하고는 이제 좀 리버트 봤어 그래서 슬라와 완전 탑재 봤어 손들이 세부 초다마 차송들이 사제서 가까이요 말이 때로 이제만
Thank you.
어서인데
Lasso.
야요
So in the study of the Buddha Dharma, in the teachings, often we come across different levels, or different kind of vehicles of a practice. According to the secret mantra vehicle, a secret mantra speaks of 9 vehicles, and often elsewhere, according to the Pratimoksha and the Bodhisattvayana, it speaks about 3 main vehicles. So now from the perspective of the 9 vehicles, there is there's also a threefold the division of the way the 3 vehicles are laid out according to the Vajrayana tradition. Basically, is that first there is the vehicle, or kind of the yana of what is it? Of austerity, so which refers to the outer vehicle of the pratimoksha, and so here the outer physical form of the 6 realms of samsara is principle, and one recognizes the suffering nature of samsara of the 6 realms, and then one spends one's entire life in practicing austerity and renunciation. And for example, there are the 253 vows of monastic and so forth. So one kind of puts oneself through various austerities. And then there's the second, called the inner vehicle of the interdependent arising, or the origin, which is the origin of suffering. So then here one recognizes that all this suffering in samsara arises from the mind, the self-grasping, the dualistic thinking in the mind. So one here recognizes the origin of wandering in samsara. One mainly understands the workings of karma, a cause and effect. One recognizes what is the path of liberation and what leads to birth in the higher realms and what leads to birth in the three lower realms. So basically what one recognizes here is that it all comes back to the mind. The origin of all the suffering is within the mind. As the Buddha had said, first recognize suffering and then recognize the origin of suffering. And that is to recognize the cause of suffering to be self-grasping. And in relation to that, one recognizes the importance of bodhicitta. And then the third is the secret, and that is the path of skillful means, the powerful path of skillful means of the secret mantra. And so then here one recognizes that all the phenomena of samsara and nirvana are actually the mind. Ultimately, there is just one. Samsara and nirvana are one. This is also explained in the Samantabhadra prayer that we always recite. It says there in the beginning, there is a single path, yet a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions. And it also says, if you recognize it, you are a Buddha. Not recognizing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. So this single ground is just like pure water. And then water becomes tainted. For example, it becomes mixed with milk, or it goes down the drain, and it becomes not suitable for consumption. But it still is essentially water. Its true essence is water. So here in this vehicle, one does not conceptualize, is it pure or is it dirty water? But one looks at the essence of the water itself. And that is, water is pure. We say that in the Vajrayana it is said that the mind is primordially pure. So when you recognize the true nature of the mind, there is no difference between samsara and nirvana. It all is one. So that is the meaning of this one ground according to the Samantabhadra prayer. It is just a question of recognizing or not recognizing it. But on the basis itself, on the ground, there is no distinction between samsara and nirvana. But then temporarily, samsaric sentient beings appear. And that is due to that second vehicle, the origin, the inner or the origin of suffering. So here we are introduced to the workings of karma, and we recognize that the origin of suffering is self-grasping, and that the way to purify this origin is by cultivating a mind of bodhicitta. And then once bodhicitta arises, we come to the third or the secret vehicle of the secret mantra or the path of skillful means. And here we are introduced to the ultimate nature. That is, all appearances are the deity, all sound is mantra, and all mental arisings are the natural play of dharmata or of primordial awareness. And that ultimate state of a primordial awareness is also referred to as Vajradhara, because it is the unchanging state. So in any case, this is my take on these vehicles, but you continuously receive teachings here from Garchen Rinpoche, and so you can also ask him questions about that. He has been extremely kind of constantly giving you teachings and answering your questions, and also that has actually benefited myself very much. So I really encourage you to ask him questions.
들이 접탐 대양 다다 대다 지니스 접탐을 렘베 하 고네 들이 다다디 잡로고는데 동창용 구요래 저덕배 동에서 된지나 오 들리가 아타서 조금 고발을 요래 샘들이 원민은 야주 샘들 남과를 제가 요래 남과 남들이 딱과 죽고 탐지 죽어도 놓고 탐지 남과 가면 찹대 요래 이랑 샘들 제가 요래 대하고서 저덕 배동되네 당한 코와를 마차네 코와를 잡아 코와를 지방에 땅 코와를 민정중 코와 야봉도 살고 답을 집어서 들린 코와를 잡아면 들린 매도 빼만하지 들린 샘도 딱 맞춰고요 그래서 들린 다른 것들이 샘 거는 아시 들이 저기 밑쪽에 짬내 고쳐 탐새들이 냠대요 그래서 오 싸우면 제니들이 정말 음안이 아주 니 이제 남과를 되지 샘도 음아 싸 주고래 옛날 음악을 남이 샘이 음안하는데 샘도 남과 잡자다 맥주는 샘도 남과 잡지 잡대리 저따라 샘도 이렇게 오 잡을 강진의 샘을 살아본다 다 잡대리 다 대리 대회를 짜면 담지 뒤는 요래 담아 담지 주가 남과한테 잡대리 로고 야충무제들이 다랑 얘들이 뭔가 잼지 담지 다 제봐 살살들이 다 살고 요래 또 담는 되는 정글 그거들 다 무엇이들 다 개비시 뒤 동무동시 거들이 대회들 잡는 고조 탐지서는 잡는 들이 사다다 라마제단 가로서 놀러가 사제 주담 있는 정말로 그 라마제단 고조 들이 상생을 그 라마제단 가로서 말로 그 들이 주로는 그것은 초섬 거섬 따섬 초섬 따왔음 것은 당분 초섬리 사실은 이 따왔음리 나들이 뭐가래 남양선에 라마에다 가서 좀 자들이 리담은 들이 레버가래 레버 것은 제들이 그리고 사실 급토가 되다다 그 문도 잡으면 때 저리 오래지 즉즉 좋아요 하지 또 샘도 좀 봐도 샘도 미지 이들이 그걸 롱걸 미로 그 죽을 미들이 대도가 차로들 너무 어떻게 야가당 메토당 이래 이 사지 답지 메토당 이래 다 다른 것을 로아로 호르시나 사람도 요리 동거지 너무 어떻게 사 따와 살랑의 요리 고아리 너무 메토로 가서 다 명령벌에 대대다고 살면은 이제 하자고 와지 머리 마을을 따라들이 탐지 뒤치를 못 나는 거리 땀내 건조 밤에 쏘는 거 다들 내가 같은 도록다도 잡고 그러는데 다 고쳐서니 정도들이 이제 고쳐서는 짬지도 마셔 그 남자 왔으면 저 들이 제법 것은 서울대 뒤송되게 짬도 되는 창고 요리 세 짬도다 나는 짬도 이래서 그래서 싸움을 짬도 되들이 다 무슨 라를 라라 삼살로 좀 다상하게 잡았다 다서 온 거래 니도 짜는 차다 탕고 요래 그때서도 상모당도 짜들 내지도 누군데 조금 말해 또 나들 상모야 본데 돌런지나 트리들이 시에도 그 요래 누구 짜 하장 같이 뭐래 되게 있지 뭐래 돼
Is this? I think it's a different text now, right? So this sadhana that we have practiced as a Chenrezig sadhana. And it begins in the small print here. There's a short verse of the beginning of the refuge. And within that, this small print here, actually the entire meaning of the refuge is contained. So it begins with the visualization. Visualize that on your crown is a lotus, a sun disk, and a moon disk, upon which are the assemblies of the deities of the three roots and the jewels. So So each word is very meaningful. So first, you visualize at your crown as a lotus. The lotus represents a detachment from samsara. So right now it is our body is within samsara, but the mind is actually inseparable from space at all times. The space-like nature of the mind is the Dharmakaya that always abides like space. And also the lotus flower is related to the central channel. The stalk of the lotus flower above the crown points to the entrance of the central channel. And also this is a sign that our mind, even though we are in this physical form, our mind is actually connected to space, the outer space at all times. But that is the connection between our crown and the lotus flower through the lotus flower stalk. So the lotus flower is a sign of not being attached to samsara. So it means to recognize, first of all, that I want to become liberated from samsara. Samsara is only suffering. So it begins really with a mind of renunciation. And so the lotus flower represents this. And so then when we recognize the nature of the mind, then we recognize that we are actually always inseparable from space. For example, when you close your eyes, in an instant, you will gain this experience of how there is no delineation between yourself and space. The mind pervades all of space. For example, if you close your eyes and you think of a certain place in the world, the mind goes there instantly. And that is also a sign of its pervasiveness. So the Dharmakaya is pervasive like space. The Sambhogakaya appears in the sky like a rainbow in the sky. According to the secret mantra, the Vajrayana, when one recognizes the space-like nature of the mind, then all aggregates, elements, and sense sources will manifest as the deity. And then the Nirmanakaya appears directly as a spiritual master, for instance, for the sake of sentient beings. So he mentions then here the deities of the three roots and all the three jewels, the sources of refuge. So according to the Pratimoksha path, we first go for refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Or according to the Sutra path, we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and in the Sangha. And then when we then actually engage in a path of practice, then our sources of refuge become the three roots, the Lama, Yidam, and Dakini. Or we can also say, we often speak about the 9 jewels, the 3 jewels, the 3 roots, and the 3 kayas, which make the 9 jewels. And so dividing it in this way, we first, in the Pratimoksha path, take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. In the Bodhisattva path, or the inner path, we take refuge in Lama, Yidam, and Dakini. And in the ultimate, or the secret mantra, we actualize the 3 kayas, the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. So also there is a refuge prayer in our Ngundro text, the preliminary text, that actually is a refuge where we go for refuge in the 9 jewels. So in this way also we should actually combine the different practices with each other, or basically see the connection between the different practices. So we go through the outer, inner, and secret as our mind increasingly matures. So the mind matures from Nirmanakaya to Sambhogakaya to the Dharmakaya. So it is just like the growing of a flower. First, you have the seed of the flower planted into the ground, and then it grows into a stalk, it grows into a seedling, and then into an actual flower. So we can also view the root part, the part of the flower that is planted into the ground, as samsara. When we are attached to samsara, then we are still mingled with the ground. But then gradually the flower grows out of the ground, and it becomes a sprout, and it turns into a flower with blossoms and leaves. So you can actually gain a really deep understanding from this example. So it's important that we know how to condense all into one. And to combine, or to kind of see the relation between the different levels of practice, which is why in the refuge of the Ngundro section, there's a refuge that takes refuge in all these 9 jewels. First, according to the sutra path, or the pratimoksha path, where we take refuge in the 3 jewels. Then we enter the actual path of practice, where we take refuge in the 3 roots. And then as a result of practice, we actualize the 3 kayas. So we take refuge in the 3 kayas on the ultimate level. So therefore, that's what it mentions here. I take refuge in the 3 roots and all the jewels, the sources of refuge. And so then it begins with I take refuge in the gurus, jewels, Yidam deities, and the assemblies of ocean of victorious Buddhas. So also elsewhere it said, I take refuge in the deity, which is my own mind. So we should recognize that everything, all these jewels, these places of refuge, are ultimately included within our own mind. So it's very important just to think about the meaning of this small print here, because it is very profound. It also I recommend to discuss the meaning of just these words with one another. Discussion is also very important. Even though you do receive instructions, it's also important to integrate them into your mind by discussing them with one another.
티 초대 용만 지지 초대 자도 티 하고서 다금 용 하고서 다금 용 방어다 나디 방거도 티 하고서 다 나디 방어다 나를 살아 상사로스 오 수거래서 나이 이미 봐대 생장만 당장들 나를 살지 오 담을 티 하고서 요리 책당만 생자고 뒤대로 대대로 내대로 남도 가래 지용나 대답시 ramji 쳐달라고 매일 남도 지와도 매일 막 터는 남도 된 차롬들 양당는지 야 멋지게 되어 가오를 어따 뒤다 지붕에서 뒤서리 담가 차고 뒤 약만 독서 차고 차당이랑 영어를 그 차봐야 맞지 내가 등마야 맞지 차당이 맞지 방청을 세도 쳐달라고 파격소 내 생싸움에 대해서 요래지 야 진지는 때도 와서 저를 오마야 버리고 오마이 자양나 그런가 자든 저것도 저 차도라 야 저도만 되고 라를 잘사 저도만 가래 라를 잘 삼살로스 오 대도 다랑을 또 하공으로 고통구나 세그 나딘 방을 다 검정방나 검정 나딘이 나딘 방스는 직접 문제를 생태에 사라져 버리지 다랑을 때 도성시 시합 예비는서 소소랑을 이시 주여받에 책제가 타지요 소소랑의 셈도 하고 성전은 혼대 이가 랑의 셈이랑 오래서 라니 소리면서 제다와지 또더라 제다 나와 담지랑의 셈지 니소랑의 셈네 사지야랑의 셈네 담지랑의 셈 대양들이 나가 또 못하고 딸이 하고 라를 가라 상살로 송 그리 막 장도 단들이고 저거래
And then it says, all beings with your parents the foremost recite the following with respectful body, speech, and mind. So respectful body, speech, and mind. So for body, speech, and mind to be respectful, mainly the mind has to be respectful. So first, the mind must recognize that the 6 realms of samsara are suffering by nature. And then you recognize that I do not wish to experience such suffering. So this is the first respect that the mind really pays, by recognizing suffering, which is really the first instruction that the Buddha gave. And when you recognize this, then just naturally you will stop engaging in negative actions with body and with speech. You will recognize the origin, the cause of all this suffering. The Buddha's first teaching were recognize suffering and abandon the origin of suffering. What is the origin of all suffering? It is self-grasping. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, therefore, it says, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. So there is not a single form of suffering that does not arise from self-grasping. It all arises from self-grasping. So when you understand that, then you will recognize I really have to give up self-grasping. This is the origin of all my suffering. So where do I find self-grasping? It is within my own mind. Because I believe that there is a self, I also perceive the existence of others. So look at that mind. The essence of that mind is actually like space, or like a vast ocean. There is no duality of self and other within the mind. When you recognize the mind really as it is, there is no delineation between self and other. Therefore, it is also said that when you realize the nature of your mind, there is no higher learning than that. There's no higher learning than realizing the nature of your mind. So, according to the scriptures, this is referred to as the view of Madhyamaka, the middle way view. where there is no grasping. So the middle way view instructs us to not grasp at anything, neither existence nor non-existence. We shouldn't think about anything at all. And who actually taught that too? It was Tilopa, when he taught Mahamudra. He said that without a single thought, decisively look at your true nature. This is Mahamudra. So Mahamudra is this famous term, this lofty term, but actually it is all that it really is to look at your true mind without a single thought. And we always think that I can't understand Mahamudra, it's so profound, I can't understand it. But actually, if you just trust in what you see, when there's no thought in your mind, then that is Mahamudra. So don't think about anything at all. Without a single thought, look at your mind. And you will recognize your space-like nature. So that is the meaning of this verse. Without a single thought, decisively look at your true nature. When you decide decisively, when you decide that this is my true nature, then this decisiveness is Mahamudra itself. The Buddha himself said, all beings are actually Buddhas. You are all Buddhas because your mind is Buddha. It is just like pure water. So don't think about, is it pure water or dirty water? Just look at the essence of water itself. And so to recognize it, recognize the origin of all suffering, and that is the self-grasping within the mind. So in the Vajrayana, when we take refuge, we say, I take refuge in the deity, which is my own self-knowing awareness. It is the awareness that sees that there is no self and no other. That is self-knowing awareness. So without a single thought is to look at the mind without conceptualizing its existence or non-existence. And then when you look at this mind, when a thought arises, let it be, just let it be natural, and it will subside just like a wave subsides back into the ocean. So thoughts will not just disappear, thoughts will arise, but we should not grasp at these thoughts. But instead we cling to these thoughts, and this repeated, constant clinging at our thoughts causes the mind to solidify further into an ice block. For example, we like a certain person. We think this person is so great. But because we really like a certain person, then there is bound to be someone that we dislike. And we think that this person is so bad. So one requires the other really. The attachment and aversion come hand in hand. So without a single thought also means let go of these dualistic concepts of attachment and aversion. Let them be just like waves in water and pay no attention to them. Then you can rest in the pure nature of your mind. So in this way, without grasping over and over again, you stay in the pure water-like nature of the mind. If you begin to grasp, if you begin to think, it is just like pouring milk into the water. It will cloud the color of the water, so water will not stay clear. So in this way, understand the meaning of this ultimate refuge. I take refuge in the deity that is my own self-knowing awareness. Then you will understand the deity to be your own mind. So again, when we pay respect with the three doors, then here we should mainly understand that it means paying respect with the mind, which means abandoning self-grasping, which is the origin of all suffering. And it means to recognize that if I do not grasp at anything in my mind, that is Mahamudra. In the Heart Sutra, in the beginning, the perfection of wisdom, it says, the perfection of wisdom is the the sphere of self-knowing primordial awareness or primordial wisdom. So it is to recognize that the perfection of wisdom is my own mind. And it is actualized when you recognize that samsara and nirvana are the natural projections of your own mind. The 37 practices say appearances are one's own mind. Everything is your own mind. The 3 lower realms are your own mind. The Buddha is your own mind. Everything is your own mind. And your own mind is like empty space. So I take refuge in the deity, which is my own self-knowing awareness. That is the refuge of the Vajrayana, and this is really where a refuge begins.
대외 라는 하나 참선을 좋아 하자 계시 볼때 가사 갈라 잡거리 다다 라니 소중면은 돌다 강도 쫄라 접시 장망들 라는 생기네 그냥 준비 시랍 니게 가리하고 시랍에 딱 가리들 너무보다 삼지가 하고 가고 그래서 뭐가 오, 삼지가 소리스 늘 용거 소리스 차차는 강사적들 오, 니 매야고도 오, 삼지에서 니 야고도 오, 중통은 이제 중마다 중용통은 중지 따라란 거 세면 나차리 도도 대하고 오, 제가 sem적도 없어 하고는 그시에 세면 나도 초라 가리려면 장미 약속 가리려면 초라를 내서는 나상하고는 되니 맨날 초라서 서로 되는 따라를 창살로 들이랑을 되라 따다다 촉숨 짝숨 거슴 촉숨 짝숨 딱 거슴은 되지 생오 동마대 죽어야지 랑지 살아야지 딱고 세면 중니요 딱고 타던 자가 딱 못 보는 지만지 까리는 뒤만은 일이 딱 뒤집어지 제거래 딱고 타던 자가 제바들 같이 공부 찍자 요만 레집에 용말서 다 제바들 조선 말이 딱 제지 딱고 타던 자가더니 뭐 동마 나가 동마다고 제바들 저 랑지 살아야지 싹동도 욕들 빼지는 데다 사님 하님 사탐지 야변냠도 요래 야변냠도 요거 세대 집어래 세대 가래야 되지 뭐 차성되는 오딱 제지도 타도 세부랑 하지들 세부랑 하지들 죽게 되어가지고 동네 매번 되어가지고 뭐 세부랑 하지들 들어 철지와요나 파시와요나 뒤용뒤 주나 들이다다 주던데 뭐 죽어 도진 창지 빼는 다다 세강만도 세강만는 송요리 요즘 저 선이들 라지 라마에 세강만는 송요리 뭐정수 개긴식 송에 저지 딱 라마 조방도 건도 아시 얘는 세강만 파 용도도 아시 라마 조바라 세강만 마도나 라마 조바 장장고나 아로 장문라들레시 사람 제가 나가래시 라마 조바 세강마단 되는더니 알로 타워스한테 좋아요. 그래서 대성 개긴이 대성에 빼대도 농파를 개발지 뭐요리 동무시나고 라그 샘도 용지 하고서는 들이들 따라를 하러 상자로 따뜻 감에 송들이 사제 탐체 주고 라마는 뒤 라마 걸음지 라마 송는 뒤 라마 톡르지 대양 송도 톡르지 라마 톡더라는 것이 라마한테 사제에서 찌르서 하고네 라마 죽을 거 같지 송 들이 딱바라고 드시도 다치 보여봐. 랑생미인의 상제여봐. 그래서 새 상제에게 툭대와치 불렀더니 랑생고 난진이지 차롱도 시원해. 다쳤다고 차서 따라봐 죽거래. 나라 죽거래지. 나고도 좀 보도록 나고도 좀 건드려. 라카리 그러면 돼. 무슨 줄아매봐. 또 샘들이 하고서는 나를 하러 삼살로. 랑을 봐 사탐치들이 좀 자와고 좀 보라. 주섬도 사제도 되는 상가들 하고 그래 송대도 이리라를 하러 삼살로 들고 짬도 참치는 인고 참치는 도주 노화 강성나더니 뛰는 마들이 요 말이 짬도 하는데 책도 되지 답답이 다시 뭐요래 대하고는 이리라를 하러 삼살로
So this prostration to the deity, that is your own self-knowing awareness, is very important. And we really encounter it in essence anywhere. For example, in the 37 practices in verse number 36, it says, in brief, at all times, look at the state of your mind. So be mindful in whatever you do. And a sign of such mindfulness, or a sign of wisdom, especially for a beginning practitioner, is to recognize the difference, first of all, between afflictive emotions and actual love. So in the beginning, we need to discern that this is love, and this is actually an afflictive emotion. For example, when we look at another person, and we say that this person is great, so we call that love. But then often, at the same time, that leads to seeing someone else in a negative light. So we look at somebody else's faults. But in the Dharma, it is said that we should not look at the faults of others, because looking at the faults of others is what will only obscure one's own mind. So with mindfulness, recognize whatever thought or feeling arises within your mind, positive and negative feelings. Instantly recognize it. And in this way, through recognizing what arises in your mind, the fixation to that will be cleared away, just like when you're pouring some eye drops into your eyes, and immediately clear away any kind of obstruction. So taking refuge in the deity, which is your own self-knowing awareness, is to recognize that the three jewels, the three roots, ultimately are subsumed within the three kayas. The Dharma kaya is the empty essence of the mind. And the Sambhoga kaya is the natural clarity, the naturally clear awareness of the mind. And so there are two kinds of mistaken view. Either one holds an eternalistic view or a nihilistic view. And these are both mistaken. For example, an eternalistic view is to think that things are real. That is how things really are. And therefore, I must do this or that, because this is how it really is. So that's one mistaken view. And the other one is nihilism, where one denies the existence of anything. One says none of that is true. Nothing is true. Karma does not exist, and so on. So that's a nihilistic view. And both of them obscure the nature of the mind. And the true nature of the mind dispels those two faults. The fault of eternalism is dispelled through the empty essence of the mind, and the fault of nihilism is dispelled through the natural clarity of the mind. So in the old tantric system, in the Nyingma system, that is why the deities are depicted in union as a Yab Yum, to represent this union of emptiness and clarity. And also, when we see the union of male and female, then that implies a very blissful state. And so how have they come to this blissful state? It is naturally through recognizing their true nature, through coming to the true nature of the mind that naturally dispels the faults of eternalism and nihilism. And so this mind is, in essence, Vajradhara, as it is an unchanging state. So then also this line of not taking refuge in the deity, which is self-knowing awareness, is also related to some of the verses we encounter in the Serkangma prayer, the Golden Temple prayer, where there is an homage that begins with an homage to one's own mind, that is wherein all the Buddhas of the three times dwell. In the past, there was actually one teacher who said, you are always reciting the Lama Chöpa prayer, but then you just forget about the Serkangma prayer, meaning that actually it's supposed to be part of the Lama Chöpa practice, Serkangma prayer. So anyways, he said that if you don't include it, if you don't understand its meaning, then it is just like eating cold potatoes. But if you recite it, understanding its meaning, then it's like eating hot potatoes. So if you understand the meaning of this, basically you understand the quality within your own mind. So that's the meaning of I take refuge in the deity, which is my own self-knowing awareness. And also within your mind, the guru, the lama, as in the Lama Chöpa, is included. So within the guru represents all enlightened form, the speech, all enlightened speech in the mind, the Buddha's mind. And then that guru is included within your own mind. Thigten Sumgön had said, I have understood that my own mind, the guru's mind, and the Buddha's mind are actually one. So if you sustain a state of mindfulness, you recognize how the guru, how the three kayas are all part of your own mind. So therefore we say one's own mind primordially is the Buddha. And then the deities, the Buddhas, manifest out of great love for sentient beings. And so when great love arises, this is what melts the self-grasping within one's own mind. So this is how we should approach deity practice. Whatever deity you practice Chenrezig or Samantha Bhadram, you should have the awareness, the confidence of actually being the deity. I really am that deity. I embody the love of this deity because it is my true nature. So this verse, I take refuge in the deity, my own self-knowing awareness, is also connected to this verse in the Serkangma prayer, where we pay homage to the Buddhas, which are actually included within our own mind, which actually are dwell within our own mind, in the palace of our own minds. So that is really the essence of all refuge. And for this reason, these words are extremely important.
Magaranza Chopamberger, the Magaranza Sem Namto baby since I won't tongue work on it. Namto Rangi, you're either on a chapada, mom, or a damati, try the younger. They must have the taste on it in Magaranza, the longest same. You are some shy Shadow was it the master to take half or something. That's what Shadow or given a lot of the song or the Sodoxi Mami, but the Chubani song. Rasi Lamato with the song that Sodoxi Patra and Chubamber, you did a tear on it or the child, a lot of the song. They took the Hago, my love than Hagore. Didn't Mangaranza Chubamber. Namdo the Temata, the Torati or Hakore, the regular Nang Mai de Yana, Torati of Pando. There is a Monan, you don't want Selma Bando, Chashi Selma. The lady said the Madonna, then the young man can never marry. Pachajo, the Mangaranza Chubamber, Museum Thomas Toloja, tell him the Bashon. When they marry, they some Lord, Taxi Tana, the Taxi Ibatan, the Pachayang down the yogurt, Taxi Taxi, Pachatic down, little Macholatili, the Seminary Bayon Mari. They take some, they take the song, keep on a certain boy, song, comes on Rogo Goma, Tavi, they had them kitchen or somebody. Certain Medibes who come to send me towards, Richard Montoran to come to send me towards, Matota, the Denny, me, Magabi, the
ngatis gyokta
Zuwega chidaro,
di kale sungro nang
Satyang Majimbe, Zokhamja Sirne towards Richang Motoran to Kamja Sirne towards Mototang Deng, Yumi, Mangabe, the Zuwija Sirne towards Kamson or Rogo. That the retarded Young retarded young thing, Tata Kota Mimambo Yigi or Ketchabo Yore, Tritata, the Chang Texan, the Lina Chocolate, the Technomas of your marriage. There is a Magara, Chuba, but you know about Kankit and Chuba on the world. This is Kama sent to Mushit in all Chuba, Shedanga Chuba, and you know Chuba, Chuba, Zudatero, Janet, and Shakamas on the world. They tell, oh, hot down to that Chimbados. Don't you body. One of the Maxority, Simba Machina Nuka or Mare, to talk Simba, Sarah, this is a large over Magara Chupa, make a tongue and tolo shade. That you meet there, Shabbat and Simba, Taki, Tanatari, Pachayo, make a tongue and tolo shasum. They Shabbat or Castin, the Bachucho, Namsang, Raketolo Yanti, the Rarity, Madina Trisha over it. Make a tongue and tolo shade. Do some yammy gear, the thing. Same, not talk about the Mason Center. Debaya sem tere, Homocotus Namboteria, Mount Baran Tere, Dumping the Judo Mambo, Sagang Tabi, Tara, you thought over the same Namkar Chase Beba, Namkar Chase Beba, same Chase Beba, dancing gate and Malaribe, same with Yellow Hakosana, 3 Jingnam Kanga made, doubling the section, same for Namkar, very true Namkar in the Song Security. The heart some creature was Tavatama. Simply Mambo Shuna, Judy, long Mambo, young, 7 yellow Hamaona, 3, Shada, Pegamari, Shopu, Mari Matati, Tata, that Piggery, then a domain to go your return. 3 half or so, 3 domain, maybe they are Tambadi, the 7 yellow race, they'll continue on young yellow Donna, Peshalo Mugusum, Malari Betino, Sonore, that the 3 Jambo. Simply didn't have a Sangayore, Kachambore head.
So I pay homage to the deity, which is my self-awareness, and then I make offerings of unceasing self-clarity. So when you see the nature of mind that is without any thoughts, then offerings of unceasing self-clarity are made. So when you see the thought-free mind, you do not need to intentionally, deliberately abandon thoughts. Thoughts arise, but you do not grasp at thoughts. You recognize them the moment they arise. So normally when we encounter a pleasant object, we develop attachment and aversion against something that we think is unpleasant. So instantly when we encounter something, a feeling arises in the mind. So whenever these feelings arise, these emotions arise, recognize them with mindfulness. Milarepa's Guru Yoga practice, it says, when the 6 sense consciousnesses are without attachment to the 6 sense objects, then offerings naturally occur. So when the mind is free of dualistic grasping at self and other, and the mind is in a state of mindfulness, and then there is no attachment to whatever a sense object arises. And that is the natural offering. And then next it says, I openly confess transgressions of the 4 extremes. And so when an emotion or a feeling arises, recognize that feeling, and without being distracted for an instant, look at the essence of this concept, and it will naturally subside. In the Samantabhadra prayer, it says, when desire arises, neither reject nor accept it, but instead allow the mind to hold its own, to rest naturally. Then the mind will remain unobscured. And when the mind remains unobscured, then the presence of the five sense objects will have no negative effect on one, will not cause any harm. One will not place habitual tendency and imprint into one's mind. So I openly confess transgressions of the four extremes. So these four extremes basically means to analyze things in terms of, or label things in terms of existence or non-existence. And as long as we label things this way, we are placing imprints into our mind continuously, dualistic imprints. So don't analyze anything, and the mind remains in an unobscured state. This also was explained in the 3 words that strike the vital point. Khenpo Munsol Rinpoche gave a commentary on that. These words are also very important when it comes to understanding the view. And so there are these instructions by Khenpo Munsol on the 3 words, the 3 statements that strike the vital point, where he mentions how the 3 realms are being purified. So in essence, he says that although the mind is clear, if you don't grasp at the clarity, then that liberates the realm of form, the form realms. And if you see, but you don't cling to that, then that liberates the desire realm. And although the mind is empty, but when there is no clinging to that, to non-conceptuality, then that purifies, or purifies the realm of no form, the formless realm. So this is how he explains the liberation of the 3 realms. And so the essence really that is explained here, the important point is the clarity of awareness. We need to recognize the clarity, the power of our intrinsic awareness. And so that is also related to this verse here of the previous one, make offerings of unceasing self-clarity, so the unceasing self-clarity. Whatever thoughts arise, if you sustain a state of self-clarity, then naturally everything becomes an offering. For example, then hatred or anger, when liberated, becomes an offering. So this verse here is again connected to that verse we mentioned before in the Golden Temple, the Serkangma, the homage of the Serkangma, which is also very meaningful. But so in brief, the point is that the presence of the sense objects themselves do not cause any harm if there is no clinging attachment to them, and if you sustain a state of mindfulness, then all appearances become the deity. And so then in terms of those 4 extremes here, in the confession, without thinking in terms of existence or non-existence, without any fixation in the mind, without any analysis, no further imprints will be placed within the mind. And confession naturally occurs, meaning that fixations naturally become purified within that state. So that is the meaning of confession. And so that is the mind, that the clear mind that does not grasp, That is the mind that has always been there, the unceasing mind. It has been there in the past, and it is the present mind there now. And it will be there in the future, in all future times. That is the primordial Buddha Samantabhadra. And even if this world were to be destroyed, the mind itself will continue to remain. It will never be destroyed because the space-like nature of the mind transcends birth and death. So Milarepa also spoke about that you have to gain confidence in the immortal nature of the mind. When you realize it, there is no more fear, even if the entire world were to come to an end. You have recognized your mind cannot die. So that space-like nature of the mind is said to be the Dharmakaya. So this is an extremely important point. Even if you receive many pointing out instructions, that is really the essence. You need to understand the essence of the mind. And now, even if you receive many instructions or engage in much studying, much learning of the scriptures, the benefit is not as great as realizing the nature of the mind. And of course, I don't dare to say that there is no benefit. There certainly still is a benefit from studying the scriptures. But then if we don't recognize our true nature, then there still will be suffering. And so we need to transcend the conceptual sphere and recognize, find bliss that is free of all suffering. So Longchen Rabcham therefore had said that when you realize the nature of your mind, there is no need for learning any other scriptures. And this also relates to what Milarepa had said. So ultimately, within this refuge, actually, also the mind generation is included, and therefore it is very important.
Kowa tomne tukpar kor kada sansar jinpan yo punya nare tukpar ngosong. Kowa tomne tukso kowa lu tsari me bachi chagu ndosi. Tsari tira saje ke tira semti tamchi semti saje yembe mne kowa yo mariti. Ina tata ndo kare tan chagrom taba chade yo rechi. Tira tungni saje semti madhab sana te madhab tung kache shini kache yo na te tamche ke togo tiri nije ke tiri te. 너는 산촉생부터 단지대 산촉생이 니마 당겨리 이 작업도 저런 심지문이 요 말이지 콜라 요 말이지 문독사는 소소로 때나 하고서 그리 오 샘장마서 샘콜라 이제니 사지에 봐 하고서는 오다 샘도 단지들잖아 니매가 차로도 없어 오 나지 니매도 없어 니랑 데려서들이 차다도 와송도 하고들이 새로 니매가 이제 하고나 동담 좋다 니딩한 그 총성으로 제인도 는 거잖아. 동담고 대바에서 하고서는 그때 말에 진이 참아 이마다래 가르치는 저거를 맞도대. 저거 말이 싸워요 말고. 가르치는데 이마다 와서 동담 대말에 대해서 생리 반이나 가르는 거 이마다 그래. 아무튼 된지시 하는 거래. 이들이 코와 동네 쪽으로 가다 상탈지 말죠. 딱그 샘땀 어디 좋지. 까리 샘땀만 해봐래. 내 사랑이야 잡대요 봐. 상탈지는 가상을 잡대요. 가가요 말. 나오 해봐지고 따철 양나는 더거리. 깨자시는 내가 철 더더라. 이 참이고 더거리 때문에 니는 너 가리면 너 가리 나지라고 그래. 그래서 나지래. 데리들이 자 되겠다. 코가는 건데 이거 가가 저기래. 가다 상탈지 말죠. 좀봐 매베 니니 매베 샘때 가지 있는 데에나 드린 거만 좀 공유 말이지 가다서다 제발교 끌자라래 똑바로 모두 게다 탐치 샘진 탐치 다디서 타고 뭐람 끌자라래 똑바로 나도 세부대로 랑은 통화시 쇼상 대세면들 대 통화시 버려 랑은 대로 또라 드리지나 뒤서 똑바로 배대다래 드리세 산촉세부터 막 떼라면 뒤추어들이 떼가 사워도 감좀 샘지 담지 남지 가요 송을 산촉도 비용나 예빈 고속으로 돼서 오늘 동당 산촉템 대마통 가다 막 뭐요 떼탑지 또그 동네 거 차요 말이지. 그냥 그섬요 저도 말이죠. 오 이제는 거와도 그섬 차대 요래. 오 죽은 남 갔다와 생기지 남 갔다와 될라. 로고도 다나만 나도들이 다고시지 않고 단식한 진고 받은 집아. 참지 차요래. 그거들도 내가 미움을 적더니 차롬도 잡지다 차롬도 자대요. 오 정말 추탐적 그섬을 남기래 다 하고서 하고 서게 하고서들이 남기들이 상하가 땅을 나와 라 잡방마 제도 이시죠 봐이나 이 라당 나이랑 지가고 습지근이 요 말이 다 콜라면 습지 작롬진 노도 맞아서 습지근이 습지들 작롬도 하고 두고 이럴 구소명도 더 발쇼 좀 그렇게 소소 로는 약관 나는 야래 들이라 막에시 이망보요래 들이 저다 상하가 동탐된 뒤는 두요래 초가 잭로는 뒤는 싸우는 약고 땅티 돈다데 싸우는 동 로저리 책자정티 말이 싸우는 단지 제보요래 들이 주도는 뭐 들이 제거는 참적이지.
And then it says next, so I rejoice equally in the virtues of the three times. I beseech the Buddhas to empty samsara from its depths. So samsara must be uprooted from its depths. And how do we uproot samsara? The Buddha himself said, you are a Buddha, your mind is Buddha. There actually is no real samsara. So we uproot samsara from its depths by realizing that no real samsara actually exists. And what seems to exist, what seems to appear, is a temporary ice-like state. So ice does not actually exist inherently as a rock, but it actually is water by nature. So sentient beings do not actually exist, and we realize that through the power of compassion, or the sun of bodhicitta melts the ice block of self-grasping. And when the ice block of self-grasping melts, we realize that no real sentient being actually exists. So therefore no real samsara actually exists. And so that is what the Buddha had realized. That is our own true nature. When you understand this, you understand how your own mind itself primordially is the Buddha. So the primordial mind is the mind that is devoid of self-grasping, the mind that has no dualistic thought of self and other. So when you realize that there actually is no self and no other, then there is no basis for attachment or aversion to arise. This is also mentioned elsewhere, that ultimately when you realize the nature of the mind, what you realize is that everything is illusory by nature. And if everything is illusory by nature, then anything is okay. But then, of course, like some people say that, like maybe you're too loose and you think that that's okay, everything is okay, nothing really matters. It's also not like that. But everything, anything may arise. And there is no more division of that is okay and that is not okay. I'm not fine with that. I approve of this or don't approve of that. So there is no more preference like that. Anything is okay in that sense. That is when you have gained an certainty in the ultimate truth of your mind. Then you see things as illusory by nature, and therefore you no longer cling to the true existence of appearances. So the mind just abides like pure water at all times. And that is also the meaning of this next line, to remain in the naked and unobstructed primordial purity. So this term unobstructed, or it is your unimpeded, open nature of mind. Unobstructed in the sense that there is no outer and no inner. There is complete openness. When you recognize your true nature, you recognize this complete openness. The reason why we have not recognized complete openness is because of the concept of there being an I, a self that exists. This concept of an existing self constantly solidifies things and causes these boundaries between ourselves and others. So when you recognize your true nature, when there is no more self-grasping, when through an altruistic mind, self-grasping has become purified, you recognize mind to be a complete openness. So self-grasping is like a magnet that attracts, pulls towards it dualistic thoughts, all these phenomena, the way we perceive them. We are attached to one thing and have an aversion against a different. We think that everything truly exists. So if you always rest within this open state where there is no delineation between yourself and all phenomena of samsara and nirvana, so then you're resting in the mind that is primordially the Buddha. Then it says, I dedicate all merit to the realization of self-awareness. So it is a prayer really that all sentient beings may become separate from self-grasping. May all sentient beings see their true nature. So when sentient beings cultivate bodhicitta, they will first, now through the relative bodhicitta, they will recognize all faults to be within self-grasping, and as a result, they will realize ultimate bodhicitta. And there are many individuals who have realized ultimate bodhicitta. And ultimate bodhicitta means to realize that no real samsara actually exists. And then it says, may I perfectly attain the three kayas. So finally realizing that no real samsara exists, one actualizes the three kayas within one's own mind. That is, the Dharma kaya is the space-like nature of one's mind, and the Sambhoga kaya manifests like a rainbow in various forms, in various manifestations of deities, and pure lands, and so forth. And the Nirmana kaya temporarily manifests for the sake of those sentient beings who are still like blocks of ice, appearing in the form of an afflicted sentient being to benefit them. But recognizing that all phenomena have the nature of the three kayas and are therefore pure by nature. So whoever realizes that actually realizes the view of the secret mantra, which in essence is to recognize that all appearances are the deity, all sound is mantra, and all thoughts, all mental arisings are the display of primordial wisdom. And so then recognizing all thoughts or all mental arisings as the play of primordial wisdom, one will naturally then see all appearances as the deity and all sounds as the mantra. And therefore recognize that no real sentient being exists, that beings are just in a temporary ice-like state. But ice is actually water by nature. So if one realizes that, one actualizes the three kayas. So may I perfectly attain the three kayas. So that is also a point that I encourage you to discuss with one another and with your spiritual masters. There are many spiritual masters that you can discuss that with. But if you just think about these words in this sadhana or in any sadhana, it's very important to really reflect on the meaning of these words. It's not enough to just recite some words, but it's very important to really understand and reflect upon the meaning of these words. So now, my Dharma friends, I will stop the teachings here.
Okay, thank you, Rinpoche. Also, we are start 2 o'clock in the Seattle town. We practice Chenrezig. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I will sing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sipa.
Okay, we do some discussion here. Our prayer book, page number 16. 16.
Yellow Prayer Book, page 16. Dedication